If you want to build your SMMA agency specialized in cold outreach to $1 million within 18 months, then I'm going to share everything that I know in this video on how to actually get you there. If you don't know me, I'm Patrick Spielman, founder of Uptics, and I've previously built a $1 million outbound agency in the past. So what I'm going to share with you is actually based on my experience. So this isn't really theory or anything like that. Now, I had a couple of advantages that you probably don't have in terms of advantages. So I'll share my story, but in the areas that I feel like maybe I had an advantage that you wouldn't, I'm going to give you some actionable advice for you to actually use to implement for your specific use case. And if you do have the advantages I have, or I had back then fantastic. You'll probably be able to do this even faster. I built my agency to $1 million in about a 14-month time frame, although it was really over about a 5-month time frame, excuse me. So initially when we started, there was probably 7-8 months where we really, I guess, weren't trying to get to $1 million, or we were doing a lot of things wrong that were preventing us to get to that level. So I'll share some of those with you in this video. All right, so I just have some notes here. This isn't going to be a highly edited, video. So kind of my latest strategy with a lot of these videos is just getting on and talking to you like a human, even if I screw up. All right, so pardon me if I screw up. I did take some notes, but who is this for? First of all, maybe you're a salesperson right now and you want to get out of your corporate sales job. Maybe you have a side hustle of some sort doing, outreach, cold email, or that kind of stuff, and you want to turn it into a bigger business. Maybe you have an agency right now and you're stuck at maybe $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month, or maybe you're just short of $1 million. And even if you want to take it from maybe you're at $1 million and you want to take it to $2 million, you could probably learn a lot of stuff from this video. Okay. So when I started my agency, here was my biggest cheat code. I already had a successful business. Okay, so I was a franchisee for a company called Sculpture Hospitality. I was a master franchise of the Minnesota market. I grew that into a top 10 franchise in just a short period of time. And most of the businesses that were in that franchise were around over 20 years. And so I did a number of things to grow that. That's a whole nother story. But the reason why I had a little bit of a cheat code for growing the agency once I started that is I was so successful with that franchise business that the CEO of that company actually asked me if I wanted to provide a service to franchisees. All right, so that's actually how we started. My agency started with cold calling. All right, and it was a good start because the franchisees needed cold calling. We were selling to bar and restaurant owners, and they're notoriously hard to get, on email, and that kind of stuff. So cold calling was a good mechanism for that. But that opened me up to access to a number of franchisees to get started. However, I did not build $1 million agency on the back of that franchise business. It only got my start, but I learned a lot of mistakes with it. So that only got me to maybe $20,000 a month in sales with that franchise, because one of the biggest mistakes that I made was I undervalued the price of the service. All right, so that's mistake number one, is undervaluing the service. But because I had that cheat code, I want to sort of replace what I had in terms of a cheat code with how you could start your business if you don't have the advantage to a bigger audience like I did. Okay, so when you first start out, although I made the mistake of not pricing, right, what you're probably going to need to do is start this agency and not charge really anything at all. Okay, I know that sounds crazy, and although I made the mistakes of not charging enough, we had like 20, 30 franchisees. So what I mean by when you start out, this is going to take you about 6 months. Okay, you want to go from 0 to 10 customers as fast as you can. However, your first few customers are really the most important. All right, so those first few customers, let's call it customer 1, 2, and 3, you pretty much don't want to charge anything. And you want to use people in your network to go out and, just basically ask them, hey, can I, do you a favor? And instead of them doing you a favor, you're doing them a favor, and help you book more appointments, okay? Now, you might be wondering, should I do cold email? Should I do cold calling? Should I do LinkedIn? The answer is yes, okay? You probably want to focus on just one of those. Look at your skills. Cold email is pretty easy to get started, but it's harder to get results, all right? But your first 3 customers, you really don't need to charge. However, I would consider asking for a setup fee. I would consider asking them to pay all of the software or licensing fees or anything like that you have to pay to run your operation. So the purpose of these first few customers are just to get your shit dialed in. Pardon my French, okay? So you just want to figure your processes out. You're gonna swing and miss quite a bit with those. You want those first customers to be as close in proximity to you as possible. What I mean by that, I know it's weird to do business with friends, relatives, extended friends, that kind of stuff. But if you do a good job at managing expectations and you're honest with them, they're the best people to learn from because you can ask for honest feedback. You might have to beat them over the head to give you honest feedback, but customers you don't know oftentimes will just cancel your service. They don't give you any feedback at all, okay? So go into it, don't charge anything up front in terms of a retainer. Charge them maybe $200, $300, $400, maybe even $500 for a meeting, a held meeting. Now, they're probably gonna want to just pay you on a close, and I wouldn't recommend doing that unless you really just believe in their ability to close deals. But your win really needs to be, booking an appointment and getting them some sort of tangible result that you can control. All right, you're going to get asked, hey, can I just pay you a percentage of the close? I personally wouldn't do it. That'd be my advice. All right. Now, after the first few clients that you do that, where you're not making a ton of money, as you're figuring things out, you need to document. You need to build SOPs. You need to, do all the things so that when you sign your 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, all the way up to your 10th customers, you have things dialed in and it actually looks like you know what the heck you're doing, because you should. You should also be able to get at least 1 case study out of those 3. Some people might be saying, well, 1 out of 3, that's not very good. Here's the thing, outbound is hard, okay? Outbound for other people's companies is even harder. So to reduce that friction in terms of the complexity of it, if you have experience in a specific niche in the past, say you're in marketing or you're in sales for B2B SaaS, go after other B2B SaaS companies. Go after people that look like you, that have the same experience as you. You have something that you can relate to them with, just like I had with the franchise base, right? So I could relate with them because I was another franchisee. This reduced a lot of friction, okay? You don't have that franchisee piece to the puzzle, but you can at least go out and find people that look like you, right? So if you can get just 1 out of those 3 as a case study testimonial, then, customer 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, you at least have somebody that would be willing to take a call as a reference, right? Ideally, all 3 of those would at least take a call, and you could set an upfront contract with them like, hey, I'm just getting things going. There's a chance I might not meet your expectations. Although I'm gonna, work really hard to do all that kind of stuff. I'm not gonna charge you a whole lot, but I'm gonna be working towards, growing this thing. Whether we're successful or not, can we at least have an honest conversation about it? And 2, would you be willing to take a phone call for, future business that I might have after I've learned a few things, right? Now, I know that seems selfish, but if you're doing them a favor by doing free work initially, then I feel like that's reasonable. That at least could serve as a character testimonial for you, even if you didn't get the results, okay? Now, a big piece of not getting results is having enough time, all right? So you may want to go into those first few relationships thinking that. But at least you can use those first 3 now as a testimonial, a character reference, that kind of stuff, so that, customers 4 through 10, maybe you can at least charge a setup fee, $3,000, $5,000, $6,000, that kind of thing, for the first 3 months. And you go into those next, 6 relationships that, hey, we're gonna try this out for 3 months. Here's our setup fee. At that point, after the 3 months, we're gonna see how things are going. If we're starting to get some traction, I'd like to have an honest conversation about, having some sort of, retainer plus incentive model. Okay, so you might go into the relationship and say, all right, we're going to just do a setup fee plus a pay per booking. But what I would do, again, this is if you don't have a lot of backgrounds, social proof, credibility, that kind of stuff, and you're still building your portfolio, you're still building your processes, is then set an upfront contract to some degree, asking for, hey, if we're successful, and define what success looks like in the first few months, that they consider putting you on some sort of small retainer. So then customers 4 through 6, maybe you're on some like a $1,000 to $3,000 retainer. Okay, customers 1 through 3, you might not have any sort of retainer. All right. So, but the next 6 customers, you might be able to generate anywhere from $6,000 to $18,000 in monthly revenue. Okay, by leveraging the first few relationships you were able to build, and then parlay that into the next 6. And you're not going to be successful. You're not going to meet the ideals of success for the first or for the next 6, right? Because everyone's going to have undue expectations and all that kind of stuff. So you're not going to keep all of them, but you need to keep new business coming in the door. But at least you're in a position now to generate some monthly cash flow. All right. These first 10 customers are probably going to take you 6 months. All right. But throughout those, if you could at least retain 5 of them, right, and generate $20,000 per month in sales, you're in a really, really good position to then accelerate things in the future as you figure things out. All right. So this is going to take you about 6 months. The next phase is you got to get from your first 10 customers to your next 10. Okay. So customers 11 through 20. So now that you've got 10 that, are sort of your, a rock bed of stability, even if you had to replace some of those, you're going to be in a position to actually charge a retainer up front instead of doing this pay per lead model. Okay. And instead of you wasting a bunch of time and effort on not charging enough for these next 10, you want to charge enough out of the gate. So the mistake I made with my agency, we literally had $500 a month packages plus like $100 booking fee, right? This is with like the franchise base that we were servicing. Now, granted, I had access to hundreds of franchisees. I think we had maybe 30 franchisees at the top end, and it eventually averaged out to about $1,000 a month. And so we got to like $0 to $20,000 a month in sales with that. But then we had to go from 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80, right? So how are we going to do that? And instead of you having to kind of make incremental growth, here's the thing that really, really accelerated, right? At like my growth from 20,000 to 80,000, it was making a conscious decision to go away from low ticket. And I know the pay per lead model is super, super popular right now, especially in the cold email world. But what would you rather have? Would you rather have 100 clients paying you basically no retainer, and you're only getting paid per lead and making, say, $1 million in revenue? Or would you rather have 20 to 30 clients paying you a retainer plus meeting bonus and only having to have 20 to 30 clients instead of 100 to make the same amount of money? You would rather have less clients, okay? You want to be able to focus on less clients and do more sales. You're going to be more successful, right? I realize the barrier to entry is a lot easier if you keep doing a pay per lead model, and I see a lot of people doing it, but you're going to be spinning your wheels. You're not going to get clients' results, right? But every month you got to manage cold email campaigns and outreach campaigns, and all the while you don't feel like you're worth anything, even though you're putting in a lot of effort. It might not be your fault. You can't get the results. That goes into a whole nother thing of what kind of clients you want to get, which I'll go through at the kind of towards the end here in this video. But you don't want to get stuck in the trap of working for a lot of clients for basically no money, because you don't know how good their offer is, how big their addressable market is. I mean, you can look at their online presence and all that kind of stuff, but unless you're niching into a very, very specific niche for a business that you can rinse, wash, and repeat over and over and over again, then you would struggle to get results. And most people aren't able to really niche into one area and really accelerate and get to that $1 million. You can do it. Don't get me wrong. You could just focus on accountants. You could just focus on cleaning companies. You could just focus on restaurants. You could do that and get there. However, it's usually a little bit harder to do. If you figure that process out, then just hit the repeat cycle. I still wouldn't charge $0 then for a client. If you're specialized in a specific niche, you're worth money. They're gonna have to pay somebody to do this anyway, okay? Nobody's gonna come work for them for free when they don't have any process whatsoever. You're coming to the table with a process, all right? So you need to use that to your advantage. Don't go and sell your process for $0, okay? But here's the big line that I'm gonna help you skip. Instead of going, okay, you cut your teeth on these first 10 customers. Instead of going from, no retainer to $500 or $1,000, go to 3K, at least $3,000 to $4,000 for customers 11 through 20. Now all of a sudden you're at $30,000 to $40,000 in retainers, plus you're gonna charge $100 to $200 to maybe $300 a meeting. I don't know how many meetings you're gonna get though. Let's just assume you could do 50% of your retainer in booked meeting fees. You would be somewhere between another $15,000 and another $20,000 in monthly revenue just on the meeting fees. So now you're at $30,000 to $40,000 in retainer plus $15,000 to $20,000 in meeting fees. You're at $45,000 to $60,000 a month in sales. Okay? Plus you've got your first 10 customers that are likely generating you somewhere, around $20,000. You're already really close to $1 million. All right? You only need a few more clients. You're gonna churn clients. And although that's gonna put a lot of stress on you, it's actually a good thing. Especially, this is gonna sound bad, not that you wanna churn clients, but if you churn some of your earlier clients, you're gonna learn some things of what not to do with the next ones. And you're gonna get better. So you're gonna replace, I don't wanna say bad clients, but you're gonna replace less ideal clients with more ideal clients because you're gonna continually optimize for better clients because you're gonna learn things. Okay, I don't wanna do business with information security companies because it's, impossible to get meetings for them, or, that's just one example. I'm not saying you shouldn't go after them, but you're gonna constantly learn. And instead of feeling like, churn's a bad thing, you should definitely try to, in your power, to prevent it as much as possible. And I'll get into a few things with that in just a little bit. It's like going to the gym and flexing your muscle, right? You flex the muscle, flex the muscle, flex the muscle. The muscle's gonna be sore sometimes, and then it's gotta heal. Same thing with the business. Sometimes you're gonna have bad clients and you just need to let them go. Okay, sometimes you're not gonna get results. Always make sure, of course, you do everything in your power to get results, right? But it is actually a good thing sometimes when you get rid of clients, because clients in this business and the agency world can really be toxic, especially when you're trying to book meetings for them. You are really only as good as the last meeting that you booked. The second people have an opening where you haven't gotten them a result for a month, they're gonna wanna fire you, okay? That's just the reality of the situation. Now, it's totally up to you if you do, month-to-month agreements, quarterly, every 6 months, every year. That's completely up to you. But oftentimes it's not really worth trying to salvage toxic relationships. It's just better to let them go. All right? So now you're already pretty close to $1 million in your first 20 customers. Obviously, you're gonna have to hire some people and do all this kind of stuff. We're not getting into that. You might be wondering, okay, how in the heck am I gonna get somebody to pay me $3,000 to $4,000 a month, for maybe just cold emailing? Well, this is the point at which you may want to get into multi-channel. All right, I wouldn't do really too many channels on those first 20 customers, I would really just focus on one channel, be it cold calling, be it cold email, or LinkedIn outreach. Get really good at one of those things in your first, 10 customers. Maybe in your 11 to 20 customers, you can add a second channel, right? That would help justify the retainer, and then you can actually go back to your first 10 customers and potentially ask them for a retainer. Say, hey, we added, say you're doing LinkedIn outreach. Hey, we added cold email. Okay, but to get access to this, it's gonna be $2,000 a month, whatever, right? Now to get to even higher retainers, you might wanna add a third channel. So to go from 20 to 30 customers and get yourself over that $1 million run rate, you might wanna add a third channel. And you could take your retainers from 3 to 4,000 to 5 to 7, 5 to 10,000. You just have to figure out how to make the math work and how to make it work for the client. Of course, you have to get results. Everything I'm talking about here is really dependent on getting results for the customer, okay? But you may want to add a third channel, okay? Now you can take that third channel, you can sell it to your roster of 1 through 10, and you can sell it to your roster of 11 through 20, all right? And then of course, your 21 to 30. And $5,000 to $10,000 retainers for another 10 customers, and that's $50,000 to $100,000. Now you're not just at $1 million, you're over 6 figures. And depending on what kind of life you want to lead, with that kind of business, you could probably run it at a 30% margin and take home 30 to 40K. That's a lot of money for a lot of people, especially when you're in charge of your own destiny. You could probably make a lot more than that, right? So that's the process, and what I would do, it's sort of a snowball effect where you're continually changing out your roster for better clients, and you're continually, each step clients, 1 through 10, 10 through 20, 20 through 30, you're replacing them for better and better clients, and then you're adding more retainers, right? You're increasing your retainer and what you're worth, right? You have more social proof, more credibility, and then you're adding channels, okay? 1 through 10, 1 channel, 11 through 20, 2 channels, 20 to 30, 3 channels. You just want to make sure things are repeatable, all right? Now, to cover some of the acquisition side of things, retention, some tips that I want to leave you with, because retention is going to be hard, acquisition is going to be hard. You only want to focus on top potential prospects for this business. For outreach, to get your start, you'll probably focus locally. I would recommend focusing and building up your first few clients locally, right? But make sure those businesses have a larger total addressable market, and make sure their online presence is good, or they're like very specialized and niche and they've been successful before. You do not want to take a loser and make them into a hero. It's very hard to do. You want to take winners and make them win and help them win more. Okay, they're going to be more patient with you, and it's going to be much easier to get results for them, all right? You want them typically to be higher ticket offers, right? So good local presence, a high total addressable market, and high ticket. Okay, the higher ticket, the better, because you get them one deal, then it could change the game. All right. You also want to make sure when you sign these clients that you go into it having enough rope to hang yourself. And what do I mean by that? If their buying cycle is 6 or 12 months, you might need 6 or 12 months to get them results. Okay? So some of you aren't a fan of contracts. And I mentioned earlier, you might want to do month to month, quarterly, every 6 months, every year. And although you don't want to keep toxic clients, you want to go into a relationship and understanding that what their buying cycle is, so that you could sort of match your agreement or upfront contract with them to say, hey, it's going to take, based on your buying cycle, it's probably going to take us a little time to get results. What happens if we get 3 or 4 months down the road and you haven't signed a client from our efforts? Are you going to be broke? Stuff like that. You want to actually have these honest conversations before you take them as a client, qualify them. All right. In terms of your outreach, and and retention, I mentioned the multi-channel. When you're first getting your initial clients, always do personalized outreach within that market. This is the last point in terms of overall just strategy and getting your first clients. You're probably wondering, okay, this is great. Give me a business strategy and how I can kind of snowball this thing and build it over time. But how do I actually get the customers? I get a lot of training on the YouTube channel. Go check out other videos. If you got value from this one, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel. I try to add as many videos as I can with the time given. But just personalize your outreach, whatever you do. I would focus on local. If you're gonna cold email, personalize it, research them. I would even think about door knocking locally, okay? That's how I built my first company. You can do a really great job. I know everyone wants to send a cold email to a stranger all the way across the country or even in other countries, but you can build an incredibly good agency locally, okay? You don't, unless you're in a remote area, you don't need to really scale outside of your area. If you're in, I'm in Wisconsin, but I lived in Minnesota. My agency was based out of South Dakota. We built a bulk of our business, at least half, on local presence. And we cold called them and then we booked appointments with them. All right. My first business, that franchise, I door knocked. That's how I started things. Then we started cold calling and we added these other channels. I know it feels uncomfortable to do, but it is way easier to do it locally and build a personal relationship. You can go meet with them in person. If you're having challenges, you can go meet with them in person. You can have that face-to-face connection, right? People are going to be less likely to want to fire you when you have a personal connection with them. So I know it's really tempting to go outside of the scope of your area, but you might not want to do that, okay? So I hope that was helpful. That's how I would take a cold outreach SMMA agency from $0 to $1 million. I know I meandered all around the place. I'm just really in real time just trying to give you my thoughts based on the experiences that I've had without, so you can just kind of, feel the energy and understand some of the intricacies versus, scripting out a video and all that kind of stuff. This is actually based on my real life experience because I've actually done it. So I hope this was helpful. If you got a lot of value, I'd love for you to check out Uptics. I'd love for you to just like the video, subscribe to the channel, and good luck to you, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.